going inside the issues of our community. This is Local 12 Newsmakers.
It's just incredible to me and shocking that they would have gone against what I think are American principles and democracy and so forth by just pushing this very substantial, important tax increase without a vote.
On Wednesday last week, Hamilton County Commissioners Todd Portune and David Pepper voted to impose a sales tax to fund the construction and operation of a new jail and a variety of programs to lower crime rates. By Saturday, a coalition of organizations began fanning out to collect 28,000 signatures, and the goal is to place the tax on the ballot so that voters can decide whether they want the plan and the tax. Good morning and welcome to Local 12 Newsmakers. A very different proposal, or somewhat different proposal, to build a new Hamilton County jail was on the ballot last November. Critics charged that plan had no site identified. It was not clear if the funds were available to operate the new facility, much less the programs were needed. Voters rejected that plan decisively by a margin of 57.3 in favor to 42.6, 57.3 against and 42.6 in favor. The new plan, adopted by Democratic Commissioners Todd Portune and David Pepper and actively supported by Republican Sheriff Simon Lease, has multiple elements. It includes the construction of a new 1,800-bed facility on donated land in Camp Washington, which will replace the antiquated Queensgate facility and eliminate the need to rent space in the Butler County Jail. The sales tax will not only fund the construction of the new facilities, but their operation, including a range of programs designed to cut high recidivism rates. The sales tax itself will be an additional half-cent for 8 years, raising the sales tax to 7% and then be reduced to a quarter-cent for the following 7 years. To discuss the effort to force the sales tax to the ballot, I am joined by Christopher Smitherman, the president of the NAACP, which is coordinating the petition drive, and Suhith Wickrema, who is active with the No Jail Tax Political Action Committee, which formed to oppose the jail proposal put forward last fall. Welcome to Newsmakers. Christopher, welcome back.
Thank you so much, Dan.
Let's start out. Christopher, this is an interesting coalition. Who's involved in this? Because it isn't a set of groups that one might normally expect to be working together.
Some of those groups would be a group called Coast,
which is the anti-tax group.
Frequent
guest here.
Right, the No Jail Tax organization, the NAACP, individuals like Tom Brinkman. But there's a laundry list, and that list continues to grow, it seems like, every week.
There's some progressive groups that are on. So we really have a coalition from left and right and center,
yes,
and special interest groups,
yes,
single focus groups,
yes,
all coming together. From the NAACP's point of view, why are you part of this group?
This is a good government issue, and we strongly believe that no matter what the issue is, raising our sales tax for about 1 million people without a vote is unacceptable. And we feel very strongly as an organization, our executive committee and our general membership, we all have voted that we think that this should go before the voters in November.
Suhith, for you, and I want to be clear on this, your group was opposed to last year's substantive proposal, not just the question of the process. Right now, though, what's your view and why are you involved in this?
Right now what we're involved in is the same reason as Christopher said, is the process. And when 57% of the voters rejected a sales tax increase, and just 8 months after that, when 2 commissioners voted in, and at a higher rate, I don't think it could be even defended by saying we live in a representative democracy. They're supposed to represent us, and 57% of the voters said no. And 8 months later, I don't think that 57% changed their mind.
There has been a discussion that's been going on since last November, especially with the new majority, the Democratic majority on the commission, about this issue. I mean, this is an issue of great concern. Was your group brought into those discussions? Did you have a chance to have any input on this?
We did meet about the jail. We did meet with commissioners. We met with Commissioner DeWine and Commissioner Pepper, and has been in conversations with Commissioner Portune and bringing our concerns.
So you did have some input.
They heard us. I don't know whether our input was taken.
Christopher, how about the NAACP?
Yes, we've been actively engaged with the commissioners on the issue. I would say about 3 weeks ago, Commissioner Portune gave a presentation to the general membership, the NAACP membership, on the jail issue. I want to state that the NAACP in November, the membership voted against the building of the jail. We have not yet voted on whether we're going to support the proposal once it gets on the ballot.
And we'll come back to that. That's another issue.
Right, that's an entirely different issue. So
this is a process question.
This is a process question, and I want to be clear, as our members are even looking here, that they're very clear that we have not taken a vote on this particular issue.
You mentioned Commissioner Portune about 3 weeks ago. About 3 weeks ago, he was a guest on this show, and we were talking about this process because it was being discussed that this might just be imposed as opposed to going to the ballot. And I asked him to talk about the difficulties of placing this on the ballot versus just adopting this. And here's what he said. And I'd like you to listen to this. This is 3 weeks ago, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Our preference is to go to the voters in August with a ballot measure. But we don't have right now the authority from the state legislature to do that. We need their permission to do that. And absent that authority, our options on a ballot measure are to go in November, which is going to be a very crowded ballot. There are 2 other levies on the ballot that we know of right now, countywide. It's a city council election year, which, and I say this with all due respect, I was a veteran of 4 of these, but it's a circus atmosphere, city council races. Or to carry it forward to the March presidential primary election. But at that point, we're almost a year away, a year without any solution in place, and literally we've run out of money.
So there's what Todd said they were facing 3 weeks ago. All the election options seemed difficult at that point. What's your reaction to that, Christopher?
Well, democracy is difficult, and the NAACP membership was clear, Dan, that we did not support a special election in August. We viewed that as another way to undermine democracy. It costs $1.3 million to have a special election, so we've been clear about that, and we've always believed that if you're going to bring it forward, we should bring it forward for the November election. That's my response.
Suhith, what's your reaction to that? You know, these problems that they face, and if it gets stretched out.
I think one of the things Commissioner Portune mentioned was the cost. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that we don't understand is to house a prisoner in the Butler County Jail, it costs $55 a day. To house a prisoner in Hamilton County, it costs $57 a day. This is not counting transportation.
That's right. There are some other costs.
There are some other costs. So, but the thing is, for Hamilton County, if you're going to build the jail, there's capital cost. Butler County, there are no capital costs. So the cost argument is not convincing for me. And of course, the principled argument is democracy is difficult, and we have to respect the process.
The process, let's talk a little bit about what you're facing, and we're going to tell people about the website in a bit here. Mm-hmm. But how many signatures are required if you can put this on? And the goal is to get this on the November ballot. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. How many signatures, Suhith, are required to be collected?
We need 28,750 valid signatures.
And that's based on a certain percentage of voters?
10% of the amount of people who voted in the last governor's election.
Okay, in the last governor's election.
Yes.
Now, to get 28,000, Christopher,
yes,
valid signatures, how many do you really figure you have to collect?
We're anticipating 50 to 55,000 signatures we will need because of the validity rate.
Right.
So a lot of people,
that's standard on all
that's
these
standard.
petitions.
And a lot of people don't understand, Dan, that when they're registered to vote, but if they sign the petition and their address does not match the address at the Board of Election, those signatures are not counted. And that's why we lose signatures. It's not because people aren't registered to vote, it's that they don't update their address with the Board of Elections.
Okay, so any conflict between the signature, the address, and the official records, throws those votes out.
That's right.
So, and how long, Suhith, do you have to collect these?
Right now, we are going with the number 30 days, so which is 21 days from today.
Why do you only have 30 days? Because this isn't, we don't have to do this until the November election. This isn't for August. Why only 30 days?
I think that comes under the Ohio Revised Code. They decide, depending on what statute the commissioners use to pass that sales tax increase, we either have 30 days or 45 days.
Okay.
We are going with the number 30 days.
So you, and 30 days, the clock is already ticking.
The clock is already
Since last Saturday?
well, since the Wednesday that they passed.
Since 30 days from the time they pass?
That's correct.
Okay.
And what I'll share with you, Dan, is the NAACP, we retained an attorney and created the petition. We might go back to that attorney or other attorneys to get a ruling on whether it's 30 or 45 days. So we're not clear on whether we have 30 days or 45 days. We're going to work that out.
But either way, it's
That's
quick.
right. It
This
is
has to happen quick.
That is very quick.
How is this going to? How are these petitions going to be circulated and collected? Where, if somebody wanted to sign them, where would people find it?
Well, if you go to our website,
And we'll let people know about that.
Yeah, that's right. There are places, about 5 places all over Hamilton County, individual businesses, where people can go and pick up petitions. The NAACP office, people can go and pick up petitions. They're going to be at church festivals, churches, the Reds games. We're going to have people circulating petition at the Reds game. So when we approach people to sign it, everybody wants to sign it.
Absolutely.
And this is, let's be clear about this. This petition is to get it on the ballot. Is that right? We only have about a minute left.
That's right. That is it, Dan. This is just to get the issue before the voters. We'll be at the Gay Pride Parade on Sunday. So there are lots of activities that are happening. And what has been great about this is no matter the race or the gender, people have been saying, I've been waiting for this petition so that I can sign it. I believe that it's a good government democracy issue.
And then after assuming that you're successful,
yes.
After that, then your individual groups will have to decide how you stand on the vote.
You're correct.
And you may split on that. Is that correct?
Right. That's
You're
right.
correct.
That's right.
You're correct. I mean, that talks to how strong and how important this process issue is, that it is about democracy, not about the policy.
And I'm almost out of time. Is your group already decided how you are with the process?
We oppose the addition. We oppose the addition of 800 beds to Hamilton County.
Okay. If you would like to find out more information and the actual petition forms, go to www.wedemandavote, all one word, wedemandavote.com. Thank you very much for being here.
So much.
Thank you.
And stay tuned. After the break, a conversation with the head of a prison reform organization about the Hamilton County Jail proposal. Thank you. Welcome back. In addition to issues about the rate of taxes and the process by which the sales tax was imposed, other questions are at stake here. These questions do not dictate a single position regarding whether or not to support the effort to stop the sales tax. I am joined this morning by David Singleton, the Executive Director of the Ohio Justice and Policy Center. The center is a nonpartisan, nonprofit, public interest law office based in Cincinnati but works statewide. OJPC works for progressive reform of Ohio's justice system. David, welcome back to Newsmakers. We've had an earlier conversation about some of these in sort of a theoretical way.
That's right.
Now, in talking with you, my understanding was that you were on a committee that took a look at some of these issues last year when this actually went to the ballot. And, you know, prisons and the quality of prisons and questions. These are areas of your special interest. What did you learn through that process?
Well, I was appointed to the Hamilton County Jail Task Force last fall, and we took a look at the question of whether we actually do need some additional space in Hamilton County. We brought in the Vera Institute for Justice, and I was actually somewhat surprised. I was my position before being appointed to that commission was that no, we did not need new space. Vera said, in fact, you do need new space, and Vera is one of the leading...
Yeah, talk a little bit about Vera.
Vera Institute of Justice, based in New York City, is one of the leading strategic jail planning organizations in this country. They do a lot of things in the criminal justice system. And by no means are they, do they take the view that we need to be building lots of new jails across this country. So when they said, yes, we do need new space. That actually got my attention because I was very familiar with their work. But what they also said is that if you do not take care of, do more on prevention and do more on rehabilitation, building a new jail by itself is not going to solve any problems from, in this community regarding public safety, because you will build that new jail and you will fill it up as fast as you possibly could think it could happen. So I was disappointed last fall that the county didn't do more to stress the social service needs that would prevent more people from coming into the criminal justice system in the first place, and then once they're in, make sure they don't come back.
In this recent discussion about the future of this proposal that Todd Portune, David Pepper have put forward, they talk very openly about all the programs and stressing that they're funding the programs that I think, as they talk about that, those are mostly programs for people who are already in the system.
That's right.
Let's just talk about those kinds of programs. They and others, Sheriff Lease, would argue that Hamilton County already has a significant and effective program for people who end up in prison. How do you feel about that?
Not true. One of the things that Vera said during its analysis was that we don't have a crime problem in this community as much as we have a drug problem, and that the array of services is not sufficient as it currently is. There's not enough coordination between the various programs. So one part of the system is doing one thing but not speaking to another. So there needs to be better coordination. There needs to be additional programming. They were crystal clear on that. And I think Commissioners Portune and Pepper are absolutely right that the system as it is now isn't doing enough. And the fact that we have so many people coming back into jail sort of speaks to the question of whether our services are sufficient.
You know, before we get into the broader community services that are out there before people get to jail, I want to ask one other set of questions. A good friend of mine, after this proposal, the tax was announced, came to me and said they thought that we just put too many people in jail. We've criminalized so many small things and tied judges' hands and forced them to send people to jail for little things, that not only do people then end up filling the jail, but they then lose their jobs, they get behind on child support, and it just tumbles on them. How do you feel about that analysis? We just got too many people in the jail, in the sense people who don't need to be there.
I agree with your friend's analysis. I think that's right. I think we have way too many folks incarcerated for relatively minor crimes, infractions, that they could do better in the community working, raising their families, as opposed to going to jail and having that disrupted. Child support has been a huge problem. I've represented several clients who were actually working and trying to get caught up on their child support, and then they get indicted for falling too far behind. They go into the criminal justice system, and when they get arrested, they lose their job, and that's counterproductive.
So they're being indicted because they're behind in their child support.
Right.
Then they end up going to jail for being behind their child support, and now they've lost their job.
That's right, and that does not help the children who are in need of the support. It's counterproductive. I think we have way too much emphasis in this community on locking people up to send a signal that we're going to be tough on crime, and what we really need to be doing is stepping back, as Commissioners Portune and Pepper have done, and say, how can we be smart on these issues?
My friend, again, and there really is somebody out there, said we ought to be putting these ankle bracelets on where the authorities can track where people are. They can go to work during work, but they have to stay at home during most time, and keep people at home but have some supervision. Has anybody made that work around the country? Is that a viable approach?
Well, it is for some people. That should not be for everybody who is in the jail or.
Oh, not everybody, but minor.
Yeah. Well, but it shouldn't. That is expensive, and it may work with some individuals where you want to track their whereabouts and know that they're actually doing what they're saying they're doing and not leaving the home if they're under house arrest. But that is not appropriate for every situation. Some people don't need that. Some people just need to be going to some sort of program in the community if they've got a drug problem, and be allowed to work and get on with their lives and be productive in the community.
I don't know how closely you've had a chance to look at the details of the plan put forward by Portune and Pepper, but do you feel that they, and you just said something and that's why I'm following up on this, do you feel that they have responded to these sorts of concerns and said, we're going to really make sure that collection of services is properly funded? Do you feel that's in this plan where it wasn't in last year's plan?
I do, and I think the key is that those services, they're trying to find a way to fund them as opposed to saying, which was said last time in the fall, we're not really sure how we're going to fund that. We think that more services need to be provided, but we all know that bricks and mortar were really what was the focus of the jail campaign last fall, and that the focus was primarily on building new space, and that's what the public rhetoric or the public discussion was sort of focused on. And we need to find a way to make sure that these critical services are funded.
Let's talk about not just the services that are delivered once a person is in the system, but are there some key weaknesses that, from your perspective, that of services to help people make it less likely they're going to get caught up in the system? Now, you were mentioning drug issues, drug programs, but is there something others that you can talk about? Or
well, more fun. You talking about prevention for coming into the criminal justice system? Well, one of the things our office has been really focused on is how inadequate the schools are in this community. That is not going to be something that's addressed through the current jail plan.
Right.
But when we have 25% of African American boys in Cincinnati public schools graduating on time with their peers, that should be a signal that we've got a serious problem, because those youngsters, when they are not graduating, it's sort of a pipeline into the criminal justice system, and we've got to be committed to turning that around. That's fundamental. Frankly, we need to be focusing on how to get more people employed, because jobs are really the key to having a future and feeling a stake in the community and staying out of trouble.
Mm-hmm. That school thing, I mean, we've done many shows over the years, and everybody's concerned about the quality of education. Kids, grandparents, grandchildren, everybody cares about the younger generation, wants it to be better. But do you have any particular thing, given your blick on this, your approach, that you would suggest about schools? A focused proposal? We
need to find a way to integrate the schools socioeconomically speaking. There's study after study after study has been done that show that when you concentrate poor kids in schools, they don't do as well. And you have to have a critical mass of middle-class families in the school, parents who will insist on getting a good education for their children. It is worked down in Raleigh-Durham, among other places.
That's one of the places, though, that is, it's countywide.
That's right.
And what we've got here is the donut, the city in the center and all these other systems.
And we need to rethink whether that makes sense in the long run for all of us. And the key is getting folks in the suburbs to understand that their fate in some way is tied to what's happening here in Cincinnati, in the Cincinnati public schools. And it's a regional problem. We need to be dealing with it in a bigger way.
I'm basically out of time, but I want one final question.
Yes.
At this moment, where are you on the proposal that is moving forward now for this sales tax to build new facilities and fund these programs? Where do you stand on that?
Well, I think the proposal is good because it's focused on the programming. There's still work that we need to do in this county. We need to be looking at, are the police arresting the right people? Are they charging too many folks? Is the prosecutor using its discretion wisely? Because I think we do have some room to reduce the number of people coming in just by focusing on how can we divert people from the criminal justice system. I think, though, that this proposal is a good step in terms of focusing on the prevention and rehabilitation in addition to the new jail space.
Thank you very much. I want to let people know that they can get in touch with you through a website, which is www.ohiojpc.org, or your telephone number, 513-421-1106. That's the Ohio Justice and Policy Center.
1108.
1108, there we go. Thank you, David. Thank you for making Newsmakers a part of your Sunday morning. Join us again next week to meet the men and the women shaping our community for the future. Have a good week.